Life is sweet. Let it sweep you off your feet.
Hi, this is Allie and Find Your Joy. And oh my gosh, do I have a delicious treat for you today. We have the most fabulous, was for many years and probably still jazz, International Jazz Diva. And now we have Maureen Washington, Diva in the Dirt. Ooh, welcome, Maureen.
Oh, thanks for having me, Allie. I really appreciate this.
There's so many places I want to start. I get a little excited and don't even know which one. But I think sometimes starting at the beginning might be a great place to start. You are this extravaganza of so many talents that I go on and I watch you I'm watching you grow things, and then I'm watching your baking, then I'm watching you do canning, and now there's chickens involved, and and you don't live on 40 acres.
No, I don't. No, I live on 0.2 of an acre. So not
Right.
even like it is a big city lot, but it's my urban farm, and the boulevard in the front is quite a big space. So I can do a lot of damage, a lot of growing damage out there. So
That's amazing. So what started this? Like, how did you suddenly one day go, you know what, I'm going to do this thing?
well, it was kind of a, slightly a forced thing, I guess, because, as a jazz and blues singer and a vocal coach, 2020 said, you are non-essential. You don't need to work anymore. So at that point, I always had a few little herbs and things in pots, but it just kind of got this bug for me. Part of it was even the previous year. It was like 2018 or 2019. I had a wooden deck, and one of my kids, she was walking on it, and it just rotted, and so a hole went in, and so it was like, okay, we need to change the deck. And friends of mine, they had just put in a brick deck for themselves, brick patio. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And they said, we'll come and help you. So for a few months in the summertime, they would go to work, because I was working still from home as a teacher, and they'd go to work, and then they would come right here after work, bring their clothes. I would feed them dinner. And also, I also traded with them with voice lessons and stuff. And we built the deck. And this just became this really neat thing for me. Because growing up, we never ate out on our patio. That was like maybe once or twice in all my life. And so I wasn't accustomed to that. But you go to someone's house and they go, let's have drinks on the patio. And you're like, yeah, let's do that. But I wouldn't do it at home. So then I started decorating my patio. It became this, new canvas of putting things up on the walls, and where I was staggering things and building it. We've got an upper terrace and this lower patio area. And it was just like, it became this beautiful oasis, and I was decorating it. So then it would be like, well, I need an olive tree. Well, I need and it started that way. And so 2020, I had these few plants, and then it just kind of got this little bug where there's a shrub here. There's a bit of soil around it. Let's plant a few radishes. Let's plant a few things. And then it just kind of snowballed, all like, I always go, 2020 happened. And I ended up with 6 kids, 4 chickens. 5 chickens. So I ended up with 6 kids, 5 chickens, and a dog. So everybody ended up, being at home. And so we were all living in here, and we would just go and suntan. Like, we enjoyed, it was the first summer that I hadn't worked. And so we would get lawn chairs out, and we would put on some music, we'd go do a little weeding. Then we would get, our little, adult beverages, and we would drink and just have a really great time. And each thing that, it was just like, as it progressed, it was like, well, we could take this spot of the yard and we could build raised beds, and hey, we could build this, and then, oh, we're going to build the chicken coop. So again, with my friends, my daughter and my girlfriend, we just said, none of us know how to build. Let's take this on. Her husband kind of was, the foreman, and And we just built this beautiful chicken coop, and that just got this ball rolling. And I went, let's buy a chop saw. And so we built our grape trellis. We built benches for, to sit around, and, all sorts of things. Like it just kind of, you have a lot of time on your hands, and it's like, well, let's figure out how to do this.
Wow. And what I love too is that this was just things that you'd never even done before. You just decided, hey, apparently I'm a builder, and I'm a do-it-yourselfer, and I'm a farmer, and I'm a gardener. And I love that. You're really a fun person to watch from a distance,
Wow.
It's really it inspires me. You inspire me, and I think you inspire a lot of people, because I'm watching, and I'm like, I had a garden at the beginning of the isolation and all these things. I did a garden, and I started it, and I was really excited about it, and then I didn't keep it up. And so there's things that I kept up, but that wasn't one of them. But I watched you soar. I watched you soar from, I'm not really sure what these bugs are, to giving full lessons on what the bugs are and what to do with them and how to handle them more organically. And It's impressive. Where did you collect the information?
A lot of it is on YouTube. Like I'll just go and YouTube it, or I'll even go and just Google it. How to do. You just go put it in the Googles, read about it. And sometimes I've always been a fly by the seat of your pants person. So a lot of times I like, not with the building, because that that requires a little bit more finesse and skill. But a lot of things I just go, well, I think I want to do that, and I just jump off and I try.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so at this point now I have not been to your home since all of this has happened. I remember what your place looked like before. I remember what your yard looked like before. So you've got neighbors. Let's start there. You've got neighbors. Your farm is growing. Like, how is this? I'm sure if you bring them over some sourdough, they're pretty friendly about it all. But how is this all going with it's growing and taking over your yard?
Well, the one really good thing is for my neighbors over to my left here, there is a driveway between us, so there's space. Mm-hmm. And that driveway leads up to neighbors up above. So again, there is space. And then the neighbors that are directly behind me, their garage is on my back fence.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then my neighbors over on this side, there's enough distance. So my concern was the chickens. And yes. So yes, especially with these neighbors, because the chickens are on this side, you just, would you like some eggs? Here's some eggs. Oh, I got a half a dozen eggs for you,
Exactly.
You do a little bit of that. But, for the most part, nobody has said anything. Again, I think they're just like, it's like the tagline for my from all my videos. It always like, what are you doing today, Maureen? And there was actually a woman who's walked by a few times that she doesn't quite live in the area, but she ends up walking to the grocery store over here, and she says, when I walk by, and she doesn't know my tagline, she goes, what is she doing today? Because
I love it.
Yeah, and it was like, well, there you go. That my tagline works out well for my videos. And because just there's always something, it's always changing, or the things are growing. It's like, first there is just like death and sorrow out there with all the like in the spring, you just like, oh, it looks awful, and then all of a sudden, pow, you got all these little starts, and then 4 weeks later you have full on beautiful greenery. And for the most part, I think people are they just look in awe. They're like, look at all this growing.
Yes.
And so it's hard to go, we don't like seeing all those wood chips. We don't like seeing all that mess. And, and actually my daughter and I were sitting out on the benches in our mid yard, and there was a woman that was walking by with her husband, and, and she used a bit of profanity on, what that looked like. And my daughter was like, that was rude. And I said, you know what? She'll walk by again. Just give it 3 months. She'll walk by and go, wow.
Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think we're all saying, wow, because when you, like I said, when you first started, well, we were all doing that, really, the first year, whatever we started doing, we started trying a whole bunch of different things. And then to watch you progress and watch, I remember your first little chicken coop, and then it's sort of grown, and now their little place is grown. And now I see that they basically own the yard and probably have the house by now.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So where did now, did you already do the breads and the canning? Did all that just blossom out of this too?
Yeah. The main thing is I think why I kept doing it, it was kind of is just that, it was feeding my family and feeding my family really nutritious, good food. I would, we eat a lot of Caesar salad. We make like a fresh scratch, add the anchovies, like it's very methodically made, and it's absolutely delish. And it takes 3 heads of romaine for us for our dinner, like, because there is 7 of us, right?
Yes.
And then if we have company, it just, and there was one day we didn't have any romaine. I wasn't growing it yet. And so one of my kidults, they went out to one of the stores and they go, they're wilted and they're $7 each. You go, $21 for lettuce for my family. No thanks. And so when I plant, I plant strategically with my romaine. Like, even though it's really hot, I just finished with the romaine, and I just pulled out, I think, about 4 pounds of lettuce, like my last of my romaine, of one of my patches of it. I planted in between my tomatoes, so as the sun hits up, it gets hotter at this point of the year. My tomatoes are protecting it, so I get beautiful, beautiful crisp romaine, and so that's kind of where it went. And then when you get an overabundance of things, because things like zucchinis, you can't eat 25 zucchinis. So what do? You can't. So I purchased a pressure canner, and we just kind of moved into that. We did, we would do the pickles and whatnot, and that just opens up this whole world of if I make myself 20 jars of pickles for the entire year, I'm not buying any more pickles.
That's right.
And
yes.
And I know where these pickles came from. I know how they were produced. I know that there's no chemicals in them. So it became this thing where it's like, I would rather eat the food that I'm growing. I'd rather eat things that I know have no pesticides in them. They have no GMOs. And the sourdough bread came later, because sourdough bread is freaking hard. Well, it's not. But when you go to read about it, like I'd go to the Googles and I would read about, and I'd start like, and it's like the hydration and the da 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 da. And I went, I don't understand. So I bring in a kidult to go, okay, this is my smart one over my own brain. And it's like, here, come and read this. And she'd read it and she goes, no, I don't know, Mom. I don't know. And so I avoided doing the sourdough bread.
Right.
But then I came across Joshua Weissman. And when I say that name to my kids, they go, oh, I know him. And I'm like, well, where have I been? And I watched his procedure on making advanced sourdough bread. And it was like, well, that makes sense. I can do that. And so I printed off his recipe, went through it. It wasn't the best looking bread to start. It took me some time and technique to figure out how to, it's like, for the most part, for here where we live, we have a very damp climate. So all I needed to do was just adjust the water. As soon as I was putting less water in, I had beautiful, beautiful loaves.
Oh, and that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I mean, what kind of started out of necessity or to fill time, basically. And then you started to, and then you realized, oh, right, money, food costs money, and I don't have much coming in right now. And doing all that, then this sort of blossomed. But what I love about your videos is they're, and to tag on to the find your joy part is, but they're joyful. Like all of your videos they're joyful. You just have this beautiful way about you, this energy that comes out. So the same Maureen that held us captive when you were singing, that's the same Maureen and with the same passion and the same finesse and excellence. It's so
you're blessing
lovely.
my heart. I want to cry because it's like, wow, it's just me, right? It's just
yes, and just
but I don't realize
fabulous.
that it's touching people like that.
Yeah, it really does. It does, and that's a gift. That's something that you carry, right? There's a way. There's what we do and how we do it, and then there's just a way, or whatever one wants to call it, a spirit, a presence, the way that you do what you do. And it's lovely. And I was thinking too, well, first I'll tell you my short little pickle story. I found my mom's pickle recipe for her bread and butter pickles. Mm-hmm. And we were making them last year. I was so excited to make a bunch and give them to my brothers because mom's passed. And it's just, it's one of those things.
There's a wonderful memory.
I found this thing and I can give this to them. And so I find it and I get down to the sugar part. Right. And mom was making these like since the 60s. Right. So I said to David, I can't put all that sugar in here. And he looks at me straight. He goes, look, you go make your healthy ones. But if you don't those pickles are not going to be mom's pickles if you don't do that. Right. So that's my little pickle story. So canning is, I feel close to my mom when I do canning because we did that together. And it's just, it's a lovely, well, the thought about being self-sustaining.
Yes.
Is, I think a lot of us, we became so aware of that.
Yes.
Over the last 3 years.
Yes.
If we didn't want to have a farm and have a garden and raise our own livestock before, everybody's thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is part of it, is that it was becoming more self-sustainable because, when everything was going on, it was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I have a lot of people in my home, like they're all adults. Like I call them kidults, and, but they're here. And so me being the matriarch, I have a big provision to give them, or to, provide for them. But one of the things that that's even more important was that teaching them how to can, teaching them how to make bread.
Yes.
Because we've lost that art. My mom never did pressure canning, nor did her mother, but her grandmother did pressure canning.
Right.
And so, like my mom, she remembers, she goes, oh, the canned chicken that she would make was absolutely fantastic. And, but my grandmother only did like jams, jellies, fruits, and things like that. Same as my mother. And so you go, we just moved. That's 2 generations that don't know how to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
And so it was like teaching my kids these types of things, to know how to make the bread, to know how to can. And, I've got an apartment on the side of my house, and my daughter and son-in-law live in it. And, we ended up getting a whole bunch of peaches from the Okanagan, and their little kitchen, they were canning up bourbon peaches and all sorts of things. Like, so there was a big, kind of machine going on in our home here. But one of the things with my videos, like when I first started, because I am not a gardener at all. Like my mom and my sister, they both had beautiful gardens. My mom was lots of vegetables all while I was growing up. And if I was in a stressful place or whatever, my mom would go out and garden. It's so therapeutic, and you just and I would like, no. And all my life I said, Ma, I loathe gardening. I loathe gardening. I don't like how my fingers feel. I don't like the bugs getting in my hair. None of that. And so when I started making my little, my videos, I was just putting them on Facebook, but my videos were for my mom. That's what my videos are.
Yeah.
So it was like, she's up north, and so she can't be a part of my life. And so this was, because, you know, I talked to my mom every night on the phone before bed. And so you go, okay, what did you do? Well, I did this and this and this. And like, well, what? Where was that? And so it was like, you know what, if I videotape it, I can
Yes.
show her, and so she can see what I'm doing. But I just made it into I just had a little Facebook group of people, you know, they go, you're not singing, are you okay? Like, you know, it's like, how is it? And I said, no, I'm great. I'm farming. I'm a farmer. I'm Farmer Mo. And so if a person approached me about, like, you know, how are you handling not being able to perform? It's fine. And, you know, there's no pressure, you know, and so I would have them in my little group. And then eventually I did move those videos and moved out to YouTube to, you know, go and play with the big boys kind of thing.
That's
But
right.
the videos were to have my mom be a part of my life.
Oh, I love that. Of all the things that go south with social media, the staying connected thing
Yes, absolutely.
is so beautiful, and I love that. And that's another thing is your relationship with your mom is so beautiful, and that's another thing that people are watching, right? Like, you're a lovely book to read. And so there's there's lots that's going on there. But, you know, we're coming kind of close to the end of the time right now, and I would like to invite you to do a part 2 if you have space for that.
I would love to.
Yay. Okay, well, that's awesome. So this is Allie and Find Your Joy, and we are going to have a part 2 with the fabulous Diva in the Dirt herself, Maureen Washington. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're going to see you in like 2 minutes, but it'll be next week for you. Thanks for joining us, and do remember that you are loved. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you found a piece of your joy in this episode, I would love to hear about what came up for you so that we can continue to grow the impact of this show. Thanks again. See you soon. And remember, find your joy.